Things up now. Joining us is Elisabeth Nguyen. She is the sister of Vietnamese Cardinal Nguyen Van Thuan, who was declared a venerable and is on the road to sainthood. She's the co-author of a new book called His Life, called Cardinal Nguyen Van Thuan, Man of Joy and Hope. And we are so happy to have Elisabeth with us today. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Bishop and Kevin, for having me.
And I know your brother's very famous in his home country of Vietnam, but many Americans may not have heard of him. Could you tell us a little bit about why he is considered a Catholic hero?
Well, many people have always used the word hero, but I myself, as a sister, I would prefer to call him a man that has been deeply touched by God. And I think in America, you'll be surprised, but if you go to different cities, then he is quite known, especially in California and in Carthage, Missouri, or in Louisiana, Notre Dame University. I think people look at him as a person who can give us an example of remaining very faithful to the church and also absolute belief in the power of God, especially in the Eucharist, and the power of prayer, especially in this time of trouble, just like when he survived in prison in the time of when Vietnam was a really wounded country.
I wish Jay Fadden was here, Elisabeth, because he just so loved your brother, met him a number of times. But I got to ask you, it's a question I can only ask you. What was he like as a kid, as a child?
Well, Bishop, I'm the last one in the family and he's the eldest.
Oh.
So between us, there is more than 20 years. So he was my babysitter. But I can tell you something about his childhood from what I hear from my grandmother and my mother and his classmate, one of them still alive in Vietnam, that he really have a very good sense of humor and loves outdoors and loves the going fishing and going swimming with the kids of his age, but especially loves nature. And he always loved to take care of my grandmother's garden, the flowers and all that, and loves animals. Because I remember as a kid, I had to take care of his hamsters and birds that he left behind to my grandmother to take care of when he was a priest.
And we'll stick with the family theme too. Can you tell us about how, I understand he cared for your aunt with tuberculosis when so many others didn't even want to go near her?
Yes, that's right. Because you see, in our family, from my dad's side, they own catechists. And my grandfather, my dad's dad, was a catechist and also Eucharistic minister. So in those days, you have to carry the Eucharist by foot from the church to the house of the person who is sick. And then along the street, there will be altar boys who would ring the bell. And every time the Eucharist passes through the street, everybody stop and kneel down. And so in those times, my grandfather also contracted tuberculosis and died of it.
Wow.
And then came my aunt. And at that time, in the village of where we were, in Hue, the center of Vietnam, everybody was scared. And so they said, oh no, we don't want our children to carry the Eucharist to these sick people. They may also get sick. But my brother said, oh no, Mom, I volunteer to go because Auntie Yao, the name of my aunt, needs the bread of life to survive, Mom. And so he volunteered to go with the parish priest every day before school. It means like 6 o'clock in the morning, or after school, which is about 3:30 in the afternoon, and carry the Eucharist and to my aunt.
Wow.
And my aunt died of tuberculosis, but my brother also contracted tuberculosis when he became a priest.
Wow.
Now, I got to ask you, the Cardinal spent 13 years in prison, 9 of those in solitary confinement. How did that change him, change you, your mother, your family?
So he started prison time on the Feast of Assumption, 15th of August. And at that time, the country was in disarray. My parents took the last commercial flight, along with my sisters and their family, out of Vietnam on the 30th of April, 75. And so we completely lost touch until we heard that he was arrested and house arrest in a small parish in near his former diocese in Nha Trang. And then we got hold of some of the news of people who also left that city. And so we knew that he was alive. But my mother always said that he already told us in 73, Mom and Dad, Vietnam will be communist. We know that. And so get prepared for the day when us clergy, we will be in prison, or that we will be, you know, in house arrest or exile. And so just be prepared for that. So at that time, we were shocked, very sad, but also prepared that he himself is prepared. And so after that, he went on to the most very, very difficult time in isolation cell in 1976. That is when he said that he thought he was completely desperate and no longer could see the way out, and he was really so much hopeless that one day he's heard a voice to say that, you know, I am with you all the time and you have my love, and you just have to remain faithful, believing that I am with you. And he said for that, after that night, he was able to look at the lady who came in to clean his cell and called him by all kinds of names. And he said, you know, lady, I have nothing between you and me. There is nothing personal. You are doing your job, and I happen to be a prisoner giving you this dirty job to clean my cell because I can't go out to relieve myself. Therefore, I am living in this filthy place. And he said after he said that, he could really get the Holy Spirit giving him that power to see that Jesus forsaken and crucified in that lady. And he said, I recognize that all of this evil, really, and hatred and torture and violence, it is the cross that Christ has carried. And that really completely changed my outlook and gave me the strength to say that, yes, I carry your cross.
What an incredible story. Elisabeth, thank you so much for sharing this. We can't wait to have a chance to look at the book, Cardinal Nguyen Van Thuan, Man of Joy and Hope, Ignatius Press, Ignatius.com. Once again, thank you so much, Elisabeth, for joining us, and God bless you. And we hope that your brother is raised to the altars and made a saint someday. We look forward to that. God bless you.
Thank you, Bishop.
Okay.
And have a nice day.
Same to you.